On the screen yet. It's on now.
Okay, welcome to the 27th Ask the Chief Global Edition. And we're going to be wrapping up the review for Spirited Away. So,
Yes, welcome.
Mrs.A?
Yes. Should we start with the exercise, Chief, or
Yes, we should start with
no
exercise.
problem? Welcome.
All right, here we go. All right, starting our exercises. I'm going to do 5. I think I will need a little extra today. Starting now. 1. 2. 3. 4. And 5. Okay, hands approximately 12 inches apart. I'm pushing that energy out. If he's feeling it, anyone not feeling it, let me know. Okay,
Here. I don't.
I hear someone, but you're low. Your volume's low.
Mimosa?
Okay, you're not feeling it?
Not so much.
Okay, you're gonna put your hands a little closer together. Okay, somebody. Let me know when you feel it.
I feel it now.
Feeling it now? Okay, terrific.
Yes.
All right, I'm going to boost it. You should feel that increase. Anyone not feeling it, let me know. Okay, very good. I'm going to use that to contain ourselves. And we're going to contain the forum, our spaces. That's 1. 3, 2. 1, 2, 3. 3. Okay, I'm going to start pushing that energy out. Just forcing whatever is in the space that shouldn't be there out. Starting. 1, 2, 3. 3. 1, 3. And 1, 2. Okay, everyone. Now, Mrs.A, we had left off
Yes.
at what point in the movie?
So we did move around a bit, but I thought that maybe if you agree
Some
with,
of the questions, maybe?
if you'd like to, we could start with questions or.
What were you going to say?
Oh, okay. There's a part in the movie where I just took a note that maybe we could start for the next time. And
Well, we can start with it now,
okay,
if you like.
sure.
Okay.
So you were talking about it's kind of a little bit of a heavy start. So I don't know if maybe we should start with questions, but you were talking about Zeniba and some of the things that she symbolizes. And what was an interesting thing I thought about in Spirited Away was the way she taught her child to fear the outside world.
Yeah, and that was Yubaba, I believe.
Yes.
Zeniba's
Sorry,
sister,
Yubaba.
Yeah,
Right.
right. Okay. Well, I think maybe we can, start with some of the questions,
Okay.
and then it'll may segue into
that.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Okay.
So let's see. First question is, why did Haku tell Chihiro to not look back when she crossed the river?
Oh, okay. Well, whatever's going on in Miyazaki's mind, I'm not really sure. I mean, I guess we can,
Must
tell,
just-
but that's not really, that's kind of rude to just delve into people's heads, But as far as I would say, for me personally, it symbolizes, when you've had an intense experience or you've had any kind of experience in life, which, even just growing up in a certain neighborhood or a certain city and so on, and a lot of traumatic things have happened, and you make the decision to leave that situation. It's always, it symbolizes the whole thing, not looking back at the aftermath or whatever it is. You've gotten a lesson, so you're moving, you just move forward. So I talk about loops and things of that sort. People have loops of the past going through their head, and that the loops actually make something that has started out as some kind of an illusion, but then, once that moment passes, which moments are passing all the time, it becomes an illusion. And snapshots are just ways to keep you stuck and going backwards and keeping whatever what happened to you alive. And a lot of times folks aren't trying to do it on purpose, but whether it's attachments, ECs, or external individuals who are contaminated, or what I call SNIS, because they are not on the path of enlightenment. They're just existing in the density, but they want to keep you back in their circle of density. So again, when individuals feel that, and there's a number of you who've been struggling with that, with either people who consider to be friends, but the most notorious has to do with folks who may be considered family members. And logic would say, as I would say to all of you, would be what back there would cause you to want to stay there, and what was it like when you were back there? Like, never forgetting the traumas, the stress, the anger, the hate, and all that other stuff. But the individuals, some of them are the ones who are perpetrating those things upon you, and then when you start to move away from them, they start to, all of a sudden, I love you, and all of this, and so on and so forth. And they're using the catchphrases, which are called loaded words, to do it. That's why, the concepts of love is a loaded word. The whole concept of family can be a loaded word. Even friend can be a loaded word. Nothing saying that you can't use these words, but understand how they're used, how language is used as a means to confuse or to pull you backwards a lot of the time. So that's why I change words. I change the meaning of words. There's certain words I don't use. Some I will use kind of tongue in cheek to get a point across. But I would say, for me, it triggers this type of response to the, don't look back. And again, I believe the first review, the first part of the review, I talked about it actually being a rites of passage for her. And in traditional rites of passage, usually they record what males go through, and very seldom they record what females go through, even though every consciousness, whether they're male or female, goes through some kind of rites of passage, or should. So also the system will choose what kind of thing they will call a rites of passage. They will outlaw traditional rites of passage, but then tell you going into the military rites of passage. Really, that's just major programming. It's just another form of them gaining control. Rites of passage in its original form had to do with all this realm or this hologram and what goes on the other side. Whether those particular communities were teaching something dense or teaching something light, they were always talking about this is not all there is. Because a lot of the activities that go on have to do with things from the other side, talking trees and whatnot, or animals that are, that one would consider dangerous, that will line up and allow you to walk across, a stream on their backs and so on. And you have to suppress the inclination to be afraid and just go forward. So anyway, again, going back to the don't look back, you've gone through it, and books I've read about individuals and their experience with rites of passage. There's usually no desire to go back, through it because it's very intense, and they usually get some kind of awareness from it. It's very, very different these days with the system involved with everything, or this just being a matrix. It's like a matrix form of rites of passage, even if it's something that embraces nature, embraces the other side. There's still that convoluted stuff going on that breaks it down into something that's not going to totally free you. So anyway, that's literally what I would say, or him telling her, don't look back. In other words, keep moving forward.
And Chief, you talked about fake rites of passage for women or even men as well on the 21st NSTHA Global Women's Forum, because you were talking about how they were saying that clubs are rites of passage, but that's all obviously the system because they want you to jack yourself up.
Yeah, I think we won't talk about it. It's kind of, that brings up to, that one movie that we just finished, watching, the Doctor Sleep.
Yeah, Doctor
Which
Sleep.
is a sequel to The Shining, which is an interesting movie.
Quite intense.
Yeah, it's pretty intense, very interesting. It's not the exact same flavor as The Shining. It has something that's really kind of interesting that I may decide to do a review on it, but it may trigger some people because there's, there's things that are trying to make you afraid of, of the world, so to speak. So I'll decide whether that's something I'm going to review. But Mrs.A was talking about the short 21. One of the things in that movie that was interesting, they approached alcohol use as something negative. So this one individual who has an ability, or the shine as he calls it, he was using it to try to crush the feelings of, or actually crush the ability to hear and see the other side. So he started, abusing alcohol. And there's scenes where he's, at AA or something, and and he's getting off of alcohol. And when they tried to undermine him, I think in a couple of scenes, it was like offering alcohol to him to undermine him. And I think on a later scene, the certain individual almost insisted, kept, baiting him with alcohol.
His father unit after he passed as a ghost.
And he's, but he stood his ground, which was really quite interesting. Because a lot of movies, they just break down, and next thing you know, they're, So with that said, that segues into people who are extreme seers. Extreme seers, there are individuals who have, psychic ability, which is something that's natural to consciousness. It should be. And if you don't, you can't sense things, it just means that the system is shut you down to the point you can't. But there are individuals who are extreme seers, and a lot of them just struggle with, with their existence here because no one around them wants to understand what they're going through, or the density in them are just there to segue that person into a form of insanity, and a lot of times they end up abusing something, some kind of substance. So anyway, where were we when I started on that?
Should I go back to the questions? Oh, and by the way, we had a mysterious unknown bot show up when you were talking initially, but they left.
So joining in, trying to join in. Yeah, a lot of weird stuff with tech, which has been going on for for a good while now. But they kind of, they like to try to switch it up, but it's the same old game usually. Yeah. And I just push it out of the way. So we can go back to the question.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
So after that question, the next question was pretty much about nighttime and why density decides to come out more in the night than in the day. Why did things have to get more creepy after dark?
Well, if you feel that the dark is creepy, it's because you've been programmed to feel that the dark is creepy. So, anyone who's an adult, you've watched something that has to do with bad things happen at night, horror movies. They like a lot of nighttime stuff, haunted houses at night, whatever. And density, as cowardly as they are, they like to hide under the shadows, or in the shadows, sorry, like to hide in the shadows, under the cover of darkness. And even when, in Tennessee that lived with me and my family for a while, family units, they would see when sundown would go down, and we lived in a rural area, they would start to see things coming out of the forest. Very much like someone calls shadow people or whatever. But shadow people is just kind of like a term that just means, just other intense entities. Because they can look like a shadow, but then if they want to expose themselves as something else, they'll come from a shadow to some particular type of creature or something, or some particular type of being, ghoulish looking thing, just primarily to gather that essence from you, just not unlike monsters. So they hide there because you've been programmed to be creeped out, which means if you're creeped out, you have to say your armor is weakened. Fear weakens your armor. And so there's all these things that will tell you, that's creepy in your ears. Could be, if you're having that session, could be just an attachment sitting around wanting you to open up so that something can consume your essence. Again, horror movies are very much that way. And I would hazard a guess, and we may also test at some point, that I would say most entertainment, especially visual media and so on, having to do with shifting you into fear and so on and so forth, or anger, they're primarily for the density that is sitting alongside of you or inside of you. So it's like they get a certain amount of information, they get you to open up by saying, oh, go watch a horror film. And individuals say, I love horror films. And said, but how do you sleep? And oh, it's really creepy. I said, so it's illogical, why are you torturing yourself that way? Because something inside of you is telling you, this is fun, this is cool. But afterwards, you kind of, damn, I wish I hadn't watched that. Okay, so we can go to the next. Yes. I think that's all.
Okay, yeah. Thanks, Chief. And just to let you know, should I go to a related question that has to do with what is no face representing? Because you're going along the entity track.
Did we talk about what he was representing, or? I did. Well, I think we had a question about whether he was good or not, or something like that, or was he?
Well, you explained in the last forum
that he wasn't, a good character. He wasn't a nice person.
No.
He was density. So we segueing into the photos, or what?
I can do that if you'd like me to.
But I want to know what your idea.
Okay, sure. Because I don't actually think that no face is representing anything. There's a lot of entities that actually look like that.
Yeah, that's why the word representing, I don't recall that representing. I said, like, what was he?
Yes, what was he?
To sin.
Yes.
Yes. And I believe I established that. No, it was, his behavior was very selfish, and
yes.
And it wasn't, wasn't good. It wasn't supportive of her.
No.
But she did take him, under her wing. I would say near the end, even after all the crazy things that he did.
You're right. Yeah. Yes, and you explained about a bit more about no face in the 22nd NSTHA Global Women's Forum, but now we're talking about, Chief, that there are many forms of entities, because people sometimes want to assume that it may be reptilian or assume it may be whatever. But should I start the images or should I wait?
Well, yeah, with that, I believe in the beginning of the first half of the review, I did talk about, the number of weird entities that they had at the bathhouse. And I said that there were certain ones that were representative of Japanese folklore that Miyazaki said that he did use, and then he said there was a number of them that he made up, which I'm always suspect with when it comes to creativity in this realm, how much of it is original, how much of it is something that you really make up, or how much of it is something that's been fed to you, or or influencing what you're seeing in your mind. So we can start with the, with some of the images that have been being seen, I would say, within, I guess a little over a year now.
Yes, Chief.
That's been put on, on the internet. And I guarantee you, every time we go through these things, I do check to see if things are fake or if they're real. And my processes are, are generally, actually generally always spot on, really. If anyone wants to try to debunk, they're going to have a really hard time. Again, Ms.A was talking about these different types of entities, and one of the funny things that's going on last year, and still going on now, is that maybe because of the government, U.S. government talking about UFOs being real, whatever, there are folks who aren't so afraid to voice their opinion about something being, a certain type of a spirit, that the paranormal does exist, ghosts do exist. And, again, it's like an insanity of the system who will tell you, do ghosts really exist? It's like, really, you're wasting my time. Individuals, people have seen these things all the time, but they're not just one thing. In the Middle East, a lot of the times, some of the practitioners of, dealing with spirits, those who deal with them, we'll call them jinn. And they go by a lot of different names, but the names mean nothing. The reality is, how do these things vibrate? Again, I'll bring up the line of demarcation. The line of demarcation, anything over it is decent to good, or whatever the concept of good is. What's under it is imbalance and what people would call bad or evil. So all of these things that are wandering around, doing, trying to scare individuals, they're all below the line of demarcation. They're just dense entities going by various names. It's like human beings or humanoids on this planet going by different names when everyone is a consciousness. So you put on this uniform, whatever genetic uniform, that uniform, and and so on and so forth, and then you identify yourself with, and all of that just has to do with walls, and that is it's not even byproduct. It is the product, the main product of the system. Our walls, so you can't see anything, different from, in other words, everything is in a compartment. You can't see anything in a holistic sense. And that's what your higher consciousness is desiring to do. So a lot of times a person gets pushed into box thinking or what do you call it? Compartmental thinking. There's something in there that feels a little like not sure whether this is the way to go. Individuals who just accept it, they're just, their higher consciousness is in the coma, and they're akin to just being a robot or a zombie or, an android or something that just waits for information to be fed into them to tell them how to react to certain things and how to do certain things, or not even ask questions if there's something that's kind of weird that you're being told to do. So,
Chief, you were saying that walls inside of people's minds are one of the largest contributors to their minds being enslaved.
yeah, and it actually drives consciousness towards insanity. Because, again, your consciousness does not want walls. Your higher consciousness, what are these things? It wants this expansive freedom that it was supposed to have when it came into being. So that's why a lot of folks are literally, I think, in levels of insanity. If not all the masses, the majority for sure, because the system is here to drive this.
Yes, and Chief, you were explaining that a lot of times, density, the reason they favor looking creepy or, what people would consider scary is because they get the most essence out of it. If looking cute and pretty would get the most essence, they would do so.
Well,
And
because they dictate a lot of things too. There's someone would say that it's natural to think that flowers are really pretty and so on.
mm-hmm.
Or it's natural to think that something that's unattractive is scary.
Mm-hmm.
Even individuals who come in with what they call disfigured or whatever, and that's not by accident. There's generally some reason that they end up coming in with disfigurement or whatever, and it's about getting a certain type of essence out of those individuals as well. Mm-hmm. But the system teaches you again what's ugly. And I would beg to say that they also condition you to believe what's pretty also.
Yeah.
Because they don't do this having to do with some group is prettier than this group and so on. And that's density's influence there. You know, so as far as like what's really pretty, yeah, I can say, you know, colors and so on and so forth, you know, which is very, very, I would say, very, very universal in how you feel sometimes when you look at certain types of brilliant colors and so on and so forth. But also, some of the videos that we've seen in the last year recently, if you see, I think there's one having to do with some weird anomaly in the sky where one part of the sky is red, and another side, part of it is green or blue or something. And these guys are videoing it. And, well, that looks pretty, you know, Mrs.A, she's had enough from sessions and so on with me, where we said, wow, that's really pretty. But the individual's like, wow, that's creepy, that's scary. It's, you know, they're beautiful colors. Or when Mrs.A posted the blue lava, you know, people say, wow, pretty, pretty, pretty. Or, you know, because one, it didn't look like the scary, really pretty lava that you normally see coming out of volcanoes with the red and the yellow and the orange and so on. You know, and you can see there are those who say, wow, that's really beautiful, but yet scary at the same time. You know, because again, all these things are kind of, you know, jumbled together. That can be painful, you know, or that can destroy my, you know, my house or whatever. You know. So again, everything here is of the matrix, and all of the things that you look at, all of your influences are colored by the matrix in which you live in. It's colored by what the matrix is here to benefit the matrix, not you. It's here to benefit the matrix. And whatever entities are in the driver's seat or who are behind the scenes, who know what they want, you know, what they're doing to you, but keep you in the dark about what they're doing to you. Okay. I think
so,
did I cover that? Okay.
yes, and if you guys would like to contain yourself a little extra, because these pictures are kind of.
Yeah, some people might get triggered by it because of the programming, but these are the things that have been being seen because, again, as I've said before, the veil is coming down, you know, between the dimensions. So things that individuals who were extreme seers were seeing, have been seeing for decades and so on. Now, so-called regular people are starting to see these things and still see them. It's just only wrapping up. So, again, as Mrs.A suggested, you might want to do just another containment. I'll contain the whole group as well. So, because there are always things connected to these things. There are individuals who watch the forums, and they will see things going on in the forum that you don't see. So certain individuals, entities coming and walking into the space while I'm working, and so on and so forth. Some pretty interesting things, and some, you know, some kind of humorous as well. Things that go on, or what, you know, that person can actually see. And I think a few of you, well, actually one of you, one of the others aren't on right now, who would tell me what they would see as far as like glow or whatever coming out of my hands when I'm doing certain, you know, certain things that I'm working on, you know, a client. So again, I'm going to do a containment just for this particular thing, just to bump it up and to contain what is in the images as well. So. Okay.
Yes, Chief.
Okay.
All right. So as we know, this is what No Face looks like in general, with his black outfit and white face. So. And I'll show the other photos. Okay. So there are photos like a lot of times the entities seem male, but there are female entities as well. So we have pictures of a female entity with a black outfit and a white mask as well. So it's actually, like Chief said, that density has like a school for scaring, you know, a ghost school. So it's like whatever outfit they decide to don, or they're allowed to don, because they think they're free. They're a slave of, they were, you know, a slave of Yennevian when he was around.
Mhm. But they're still a slave
Still slaves.
of the, you know, the program
Yes, Chief.
that we left behind.
Yes.
Yeah, and when you're talking about women, we're talking about, you know, uniforms or outfit.
Mm-hmm.
And females, one of the more popular ones that they like to talk about is the women in white.
Yeah.
And, you know, usually before, I would say, internet, certain individuals figured that they're the only ones who were experiencing these women in white. They usually had some, you know, stock story behind why that individual is haunting that place. But we find that they're all over the place, you know, on all, you know, in a lot of different countries, if not all countries, all continents.
Thank you for that correction, Chief, because there are a ton of white ghosts.
Yeah.
Ghost females, yeah.
Yeah, who wear white, you know,
Yeah.
some flowing gowns and just some dress. Sometimes some of the ghosts are just wearing, you know, I guess, regular street clothes, right?
Yes.
That we've seen.
Yeah, depending on their country as well sometimes.
Yeah, and you know, and I've experienced some of that in the, you know, in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Some individuals just a ghost, you know. Sometimes if you see them, they look very much real. That usually has to do with somebody who's transitioned recently.
Right.
So the longer they, you know, they've not been in the hologram, the more faded they become a lot of the time, the more translucent. You know, you're able to see through them a lot easier the older they are.
On Spirited Away, they did a great job of showing the people that looked humanoid on the train. They were quite translucent.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if we wanted to go along with that symbolism, it could mean that they had died a long time ago.
Yeah, so when you were talking about, you know, these guys giving them names, you know, they're very confident now, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
They're really confident about,
Yeah.
I believe it's, you know, so Skinwalker, Shadow People,
Slender Man.
Slender Man, you know, all these different categories. You don't realize that you're just talking, or, you know, or a demon, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So they're all, let's go on the line of demarcation. It doesn't matter to me what their title is. And when I have interactions with them, you know, just I guess in the last couple of years, not these days. They don't like, you know, being in my company. So we would have them show up and try to present themselves as a certain type of entity that have been programmed into people's minds through books. And I read all these books and so on. Even the ones that consider themselves to be, you know, I'm the devil. I said, really? But even in books, they call them different names and they look different, which means that they are different. There is no just one thing. They're just jerking you around. There's certain individuals who consider themselves high up on the echelon of being a, you know, a demon or something, and then I end up coming up against this individual. They end up not existing anymore. And then guess what? There's a line of others waiting to take that position because there's some benefits to being the head honcho. They get more essence and so on and so forth. They get totally, it's very much like in this realm. This realm is patterned after that realm. All this, you know, hierarchy, all the supervisors, all these people who are really nasty bosses and so on and so forth. They're just patterning where they come from. You know. And some of them are actually what they would call, you know, like shapeshifters come in just to experience being here. Some, they feel like they've been incarcerated because they made a mistake. So they have to walk around in a humanoid form amongst all these beings that they have no respect for. So if you ever run into individuals who just seem like they have no respect for anyone, they're either, I would say, very much a shapeshifter type individual, or whatever's driving them around controls them totally. Okay, Mrs.A?
Yes, Chief. So there's just another example of an entity with a white face and a black outfit. So this face of this entity isn't showing up clearly, but there's a lot of entities that have this face. They're kind of it's like the round part of their eye, like where the eye socket is quite big, and they just have like kind of like black googly eyes. Then there are some entities that their body is more they don't have the cloak over it,
Mm-hmm.
and then they have a mask, like a white mask on it. And there was one video that seemed like the ghosts were really trying, not ghosts, these are entities.
Yeah.
That they were really trying to spook this guy. I don't know how he ended up at some creepy house. He probably shouldn't have been there, but it looks like a rundown old house, Chief, and these like entities are putting on all the works for this guy, and he's like frozen still, and they come out with just the mask at first, and their faces look, their mouths are closed, and you as it goes along, the faces get a lot closer, and the faces are almost a little bit shiny, kind of white color. And then they start making like an evil face to creep the guy, because I guess he wasn't getting enough essence until he started smiling like some kind of evil drama face. So they all started doing that.
Yeah. And just the fact that he was standing there that long, I
Yeah.
didn't have to check. It said that the guy was, there are people who get frozen with terror.
Yeah.
And I've actually seen that, front where someone, it's like panic, but it's beyond panic. They just will just like, freeze in their step. Or I don't know if anyone's ever had like a little kid just get so scared that they're, and then they just wet themselves.
Yeah.
And actually some grown people have done that as well. So I was like, okay, this guy, he's just there. And then I checked and said, he's just
Frozen.
Frozen in fear. I thought maybe it was one of these control situations where there are stories about individuals who have been controlled by something that catches them off guard. When the fear bursts open, it's like their armor just falls to the ground, and this thing just just paralyzes them in place where they can't move until that thing decides to release them after whatever it might have done, feeding essence. Also, sometimes when individuals have something step into them.
Mm.
But a lot of the images that we've checked out in the last year, there are things that say look like a shadow, and I don't know why we were getting these videos that had to do with sports or soccer.
Yes.
And there'd be a soccer player, and he's waiting, or the goalie's waiting, and you see something, black shadow, like creep up behind the person, and they'll just jump in them, or just walk in them. There's a lot of that going on, and that happens a lot in this realm.
Mm.
So, again, containing anything that feels weird, you're containing, and you're focusing with your intent on whatever it is that's creeping me the hell out, and you contain and you focus with the containment. And even if it feels like, maybe it's not going away, don't be fooled. They'll show up in groups a lot of the time.
Mm.
And sometimes they'll mimic each other. And I'm like, okay, I know I got this person, but this one sounds the same. And then find out, oh, okay, I get it. You guys, you always show up in groups. Even if you see one, there's always others. And how they will expose themselves depends on whether they want to. Now they're having a hard time controlling that, because of what's going on vibrationally on the planet. They can't hide like they used to. So there's a number of videos where, someone's seeing them and then they literally look uncomfortable. The actual entity looks uncomfortable, or they either like run or try to hide.
Mm. The video with the female entity that looks like a female no face, the video that shows her, she looks very uncomfortable because she can be seen. She almost looks shocked that she can be seen.
Yeah.
And she was like busy eating the livestock of some village. But besides that, Chief, you were talking about the sports event and how the entities, a lot of the videos that I've seen with you, Chief, had like entities walking into goalies. Because, who wins and loses the games, they get a lot of essence depending on who they want to win. Yeah. And you were just like in this video, just in those images that we showed, these entities, they put on a show just like they do in movies, like a little bit of creepy, false alarm, and then bam, in your face. So like the last scene was the entity with its like really long brown fingers, boo, like stuck its face really close to the guy, but he's like frozen, so he didn't run because usually you hear them scream. Yeah. But
Yeah, it's like they're softening you up with the suspense. What Mrs.A was saying having to do with sports events, and individuals who like to dabble in what's called black magic, I call the dense arts, they will deal with things like, trying to influence the outcome of a sports event. And a lot of those things have to do with money, capital. So anyone who's doing dense magic is literally either they've already signed a contract, and for these guys to actually do anything for you, you have to give them something in return. So I would say 9 times out of 10, it has to do with signing a contract with them in order for them to supposedly be doing your bidding, but you're literally doing their bidding, if that makes sense to you. So those who feel that they control things on the other side, they other side they don't. Those things can do whatever they want with this person because they have a contract. And I have run across some individuals in the last 4 years where someone called me to help some dude who's supposed to be some guru guy and a healer because he has some kind of cancer or whatever. And I would say, what kind of healer is he that he has, has this attachment, which is what it is. So he's not really one, but he did sign a contract. And we may do details on this, because that has to do with contracts and how they really are when it comes to contracts and how little respect they have for you who fall into signing a contract with them. In essence, you don't need to sign any contract to actually create a better environment for yourself. Just have to understand what's going on the other side, and that the tools that I present to you, and I don't give away anything because I don't want a bunch of selfish morons thinking they can take my energy and support the system. So what I give is for the sincere. Those who are sincere about the journey, sincere about light. Not this selfish crap. Because it'll always come to the surface, and then you'll be standing there with your thumb up your nose.
Chief, you were saying something recently that helped me a lot, and you were saying that confidence destroys fear. I'm very confident in your tools because otherwise I'd probably be afraid of these images and stuff.
Well, I find those who are confident in my tools have really, really strong and good results. But again, there's something that will say, oh, he's trying to take something from you, or he's trying to control you, or he wants this, or he wants that. I said, yeah, what I want is for this system to end. And sorry, and it takes certain things in this realm in order to do that. So when you're doing the work, you're actually contributing, and I've said this before, to the movement, to the mission. And literally, people want to talk about making a better world. A better world would be this world gone. If you understand that consciousness goes on and can go on for a very, very long time, even the concept of eternity, you won't be afraid of what you have to do to end this. Because if you don't, which things are already moving with whether people here get it or not, or whether the food as density considers you gets it or not, this thing is moving forward. That's all there is to it. Yes. I was going to say something else, but it kind of slipped my mind. Yeah, someone want?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Yeah, Mimosa here. Can you maybe explain what's the difference between a contract and an energy exchange? I mean, I can guess what it is, but I would like to hear it from you again. Like, what's the main difference between those two?
A contract and a what?
Energy exchange.
Energy exchange.
Contract has to do with your consciousness and them owning your consciousness. Energy exchange is allowing someone to use your energy to do whatever they want with it, which will fold into a contract as well. Can fold into a contract, but it can be different. So if you're saying like an energy exchange opposed to signing a contract.
Yeah.
So for me, that it's energy exchange is really like a redundant type of thing, because
Mhm.
if you're willing to give them energy, they can, they're just, all they need to do is tune up your fear. They don't have to exchange anything with you. And I had a client some years ago who were saying, okay, well, density controls all this, and they do all this, and so on and so forth. And she literally said, so what do we get out of the deal? What do slaves get out of any deal?
Shit.
You're a slave. They don't have to pay you anything. They'll just keep, lock your mind down, make you afraid of moving this way or that way, or afraid of change, or you're so tuned up by those that that you've grown up around, and so on and so forth, and have influenced their energy to the point where you literally will take on their fear of the inevitable transition. I've said this a number of times also on forums. Transition in this program is inevitable. The concept of dying is inevitable. But people, oh my goodness, I'm afraid of this, I'm afraid of that, And as I've said a number of times, I don't know if I've ever said it on here, on any forums, like, and this had to do with somebody in the past also. Hypochondriac was just afraid of everything. I said, how can you live if you're so afraid? Is that really life? Then I go to the wizened elders units that on the mother's side of the family said, I believe in quality of life over quantity. So if my life is crap, what's the point of being here? If I can't figure out how to, keep my life from being crap, why am I sitting here? They grab the mind, tunnel vision it, and you can't see the reality, or you can't see or even experience what I call true logic. Later, for their concept of logic, sometimes they say logic has to do with what the system believes. Logical thinkers believe what the system believes, that everything is limited, and that's the way it is. But everything isn't limited. It's just that they've convinced your mind to believe that it is. It's like romance in relationship and all this. Was it twin flames, and I forgot the other one, soulmates, and all this stuff. If you check out throughout history, you can't find any successful relationship if you pay attention. So you can't approach it with a romantic idea. They're throwing this stuff at you because they know it's going to screw up your mind, and you're going to be seeking something that doesn't even exist, which drives you crazy. Because you're looking at then your propensity to watch media, because you get bored, because this is a really boring realm, the way that they want it. So you try to find some external way of entertaining yourself or not being bored. So you watch media, you listen to music, you do all these things that the system throws to you so that they can tune you up and keep you shut down. So it's like, well, I've had, there's been some really sad situations of individuals who are looking for, that one. And they start when they're young, they're so-called young in this realm, and then they're in, at a certain age or whatever, and they're still looking for something that they designed for, Cinderella, like 16 years old or something, 16-year-old girl, but they're, 50 still thinking that they can find the guy, or, in the back of their mind, they're still hoping that something that doesn't exist and has proven itself to not exist, who does exist. So, anyway, did I answer your question? Having to do with the contract and, and giving exchanging essence and so on?
Yeah, that was
They don't exchange anything. It's all a sign. I don't know where the exchange essence comes from. Maybe it's some Wicks term or something.
Yes, because you already talked about new energy exchange with anyone, in my opinion, except for Chief. You're just changing your polluted energy for their polluted energy, and both end up polluted. So. Yeah,
and even then, they're not going to give you any energy. They're just going to control you. They're just going to tox you because they can't produce energy. If they're going to give you anything, especially in their state, what's happened to them, they're going to give you something that they stole from somebody else. But they can't produce; they only take at that point. It's like vampires; they have to suck blood because, you know, if they don't, they turn into whatever, you know, into even more savage vampires or something, you know. And the whole concept of light, that's them talking to themselves also, of light, meaning light, and that's a concept. Vampires can't be in the light, supposedly, because it'll destroy them. So they're really telling you something about the other side, but you're looking at, oh, it's a horror film, but the density that wants you to watch the horror film knows what's going on.
And Chief, you were talking about, like, for example, in the church cult, they were always into holding hands. And, you know, in New Age, they were always into holding hands. And you were saying that when people hold hands in large groups, the largest or the most intense feeders are the ones who take the most energy. There's no such thing as an altruistic sharing in this realm.
No, this is the matrix. Nothing is here is to support your well-being. And thank you for bringing that up about the holding hands thing. I have a number of stories around that, and individuals firsthand, you know, stories about individuals, you know, let's get together, let's all hold hands. And usually it's the person who's running around the program saying, let's hold hands, let's hold hands, let's hold hands. When we were in Pi about 3 years ago, almost 4, this particular person was facilitating the thing and asked me to come and be part of it. I said, okay, we're going to start out, we're going to all hold hands. I said, no, we're not. And then what was it? Then they wanted to bring your own music. I said, we're not going to listen to a bunch of people's music. You don't even know that amongst these people are dense entities, could be shapeshifters. So as soon as you put your hands together, and this has happened before in one of the men's conferences that the guy that I was working with in men's conferences with, that told me about, where this one person, with his arrogance and his, you know, whatever, he didn't go along with whatever the dense entity that they were honoring at the time, because they didn't realize they were honoring dense entities. Said, throw something of value into this cave and walk away. Don't, if you come back and grab it, bad things will happen. So one guy is being a real, you know, like show off. He takes a Rolex, which is a waste. Really, it's about impressing, you know, ants, literally. So he throws it in there, and everybody's like, okay, doing the hand holding thing. He sneaks off. He goes, grabs his Rolex. He comes in. Hey, where you been? Oh, I just had to use the bathroom. Comes in. Okay, everybody. Last guy holds hands. The whole circle of men go.
Oh.
They all pass out, drop to the ground. Because the density that they agreed to honor, which gives of yourself, this goes on in, you know, in religious, you know, things also, came in and was able to overpower them because they were all open to it. But this guy, he decided he wasn't going to follow it. He said, oh, you want to play with us, right? Okay. Bam! Everybody went down. And somehow they knew it was him. And knew, said, dude, did you go back in there, you know, why are you showing off anyway? But anyhow, these are things that, you know, that happen all the time. It has density, wants to unify the energy so that everyone will feed that energy to who knows who. They can show up as, you know, Mary Magdalene, Buddha, or any other of these, you know, what they give you as a spiritual representative. And you really don't know what's behind those images, what you're feeding with your essence. And they just think, oh, we're just being, I don't know what goes through your mind. I'm quite sure you've been in one of those. What goes through your mind? Anyone want to volunteer what goes through their mind when they're holding in the group, holding hands? It's okay if you don't, but yeah, no logic, right?
A lot of times, Chief, they say, you know, a sense of community or togetherness, and then they watch movies that encourage that kind of behavior, or that you need community. And if you don't have community, then you are lost or abandoned or misfit.
Yeah, you don't have friends, you don't have, you know, the concept of family and so on and so forth. If you're an orphan, go out there and find yourself. And we've talked about that before too. You know, go out there and find yourself a family. In other words, reconnect with it, with the contaminated. And again, certain things that were really great in the movie The Matrix, we talked about it, but folks have the tunnel vision even watching that movie where the whole thing doesn't register, or the things that are really, really key that was being put across in that movie wasn't registering. So they're saying, be wary of anyone, as I would say, be wary of anyone who's not getting the work. You know, that they are all potential Smiths if they're not just straight out Smiths.
Yes, Chief.
Which means that they are vulnerable. There's nobody, and I don't, agree to any of you guys going out there and trying to teach people how to do containment, because it's not going to work, because they're not sincere. And if you keep doing it, you're not sincere. And some of you might have experienced some step back when you start doing things I tell you not to do. And sometimes they give you a shot and say, get back on track, and they step back in, all of a sudden your containments are working like a charm. But if you do it too much and say, this person is just trying to find angles, we're going to walk away permanently. Chief, and I know you, I generally always know who it is, but I'll just see if they're going to fight MCs or whatever urges that are coming and hitting them from the other side. A lot of times, it's some what they call family unit starts talking about your life and how you're living your life. And besides, the youngest one and the member of the audience here, all of you guys are supposed to be adults. Now, who has the right to tell you how to live your life? If you start making changes and they start getting all out of the box, that means they are Smiths. And they were potential Smiths, and Smiths are jumping in, and all of a sudden they're just leaning on you real hard. The system is controlling them to try to get you back in the chicken coop. So what's so dangerous about one person starting to glean what's going on? They're starting to use the tools that I presented. It hurts them. They are weak. What happens with people who, want to fight, but they're talking all the time. Well, I'm gonna. It's because they're afraid. They're not tough. They're just trying to see if they can, get in there with their rhetoric and weaken you. So anyway, I know that I usually go on a journey with this stuff, so we can bring me back to the beginning.
Thank you for your journey. So also, Chief, you were talking about how that Bedazzled for the next forum will be a great addition because it talks a lot about contracts.
Yeah.
And that contracts are actually bullshit. You don't really get much out of it, and they take your soul and they take everything.
Yeah, and I break contracts. And when I first started doing it, the threats from them. Oh, you can't. I said, well, make me can't. I'm breaking it anyway. And I said, thanks for showing up. Now I got you. So it's all, huff and puff, literally. But they run this whole system from fear. So if you're feeling fear, sometimes you're empathing fear. It may not even be you. But you said, why am I afraid of this? I'm looking at this thing. Why am I feeling fear? Because it may not be you. You may be empathing something. Sometimes I empath in fear when I'm getting close to them. I know it's not me. It's like, oh, there's a fear thing going on. But I understand because I think. I understand that it's not just, if I'm feeling the fear in my energy, it's not like my energy's in the box. My energy, little do you know, your energy flows also beyond a box. But they convince you that that it doesn't. How can other individuals, I say you have someone you're in one country, another person may be someone that you're related to, or is in another country, and you can kind of feel that person thinking about you. So the box is an illusion. You can, if you're feeling that, and then also a lot of folks have had that where someone's thinking about them, or they're thinking about that person all of a sudden, then that person will call them. Again, is to drive the consciousness and say, you're in a box, but how's this person, how am I feeling that person who's, on the other side of the globe? Okay, who's that?
Thanks, Chief. And I was thinking, if you please correct this if it's wrong. It's like that. What you give to us is giving, with the only stipulation that people be sincere and respectful, which is not much to ask, and they get to use these incredible tools. But a lot of people want to believe in the Captain Marvel syndrome, or this and that, but their energy, your clients, myself included, our energy is in recovery, so it's best to use your tools. It's not an energy exchange.
No, by no means. I'm not exchanging anybody's energy.
Ah!
Yeah,
Somebody.
Yeah, someone's got something in there, hitched a ride, maybe just been bedded in there for a while, wants to think that, I don't want your energy. Why would I want your energy? I can do the things I can do with my energy. Why would I need your energy?
Ah!
I give you my energy. And that energy that I'm getting is saying mine is energy that is of supreme consciousness of this universe. Breaking it back open, and here's what it tastes like. Maybe you might remember it, because that's where you all came from originally. But sometimes people get so damaged, they can't begin to understand. But something in there, you keep coming back, your higher consciousness wants you to come. It feels itself being freed. And how it frees itself is me building that energy up, building it up to break down the walls, to burn down those illusions of walls. And it takes time, depends on the person as to how much they hit, how fast they move, or how slowly they move. But the important thing, as long as you're moving in the right direction, I don't care what your pace is. It could be a snail's pace, it could be like, running like a jackrabbit, which I wouldn't suggest, because you really have to take time to see the scenery when on your path, what you're passing, what's at every stop. So trying to mad dash is insane. It's like when you have to put together something very, very complicated, even in this realm, you can't rush through it. You have to take the time to put everything in place properly, or it probably won't work, or it'll fall apart. Okay?
Yes, Chief. Should I go ahead and show some Slender Man pictures?
Yeah, I should show you some more. Unless you guys have had enough. But I think it's like a test to just so that you get used to these things are harmless. Especially if you use the tools, then if you have the tools, it supports your confidence, because if you're standing out there and I'm just telling you, just swing at them or whatever, it's just like, well, I don't feel that strong. My tools have a lot of power. Again, sincerity. Sincerity, you will feel the effects. I do have sincere clients because they tell me some really great stories about using those tools. Okay.
Yes, Chief. So some Slender Man pictures, and the name is pretty fitting because they're really skinny looking.
Yeah, I've seen a number of those also in on videos that people recently.
Super skinny.
Yeah.
If I didn't know, I'd just think they were kind of emaciated, except that they're so tall and kind of bendy.
Yeah. Yeah. And even some clients have seen, very, very tall beings.
Yeah.
And, and so I know what I saw or whatever. This one particular, but also a number of them they're just, they really intense seers. It doesn't take much for them to see things because they were seeing them before the battle even got to full pitch here, or the veil, before the veil began to drop. They were seeing things, and that's why, again, just promoting the paranormal report. It is primarily to a place for those who are sincere and those who are just curious about it, who want to know more about it. Because I go into details, just as I go into details here, about what's going on the other side. And again, just as I challenge them here, I'll challenge anyone to debunk anything. Bring your little janky logic, and I'll bring my true logic, and you will surely fall. So, but no one wants to, I put it out there, no one wants to challenge. You know why not? Because the density in them don't want to challenge. But since I get wind of them, they're gone permanently. So I wonder why, there's no trolls on my sites. It's because their density said, let's not do that. We had someone actually trying to be funny or something. They said, okay, we're gonna hit these guys. Went back, it was 2 people, they deleted both of them, deleted at the same time.
Yeah.
And it was something with just a
angry face on your ad.
Yeah, angry face on my ad or something like that. Oh, okay, we want to play like that. To tell you the truth, I don't have to be everywhere to deal with these individuals. That's what the associates are. That's what a whole plethora of other beings are on the other side who are not dense. And they don't have patience for the insincere. Depending on what you're trying to do, something may happen to you. If you just want to be ignorant, then it's like, oh, leave them alone. But you were showing the Slender Man. Also, there are some entities that will show up distorted.
Yes.
And I was getting these stories from someone that that's close to me for years, would see certain things show up in a very distorted form to try to scare her. And at times, her fear would they hit the right button and their fear would come up. But other times, they would show up looking just totally messed up. And she says, I know you're trying to scare me. Nice face. But because of what was going on in her energy, her entities, what attachments that were still there with her were fighting with her higher consciousness. So sometimes she would just be very brazen, very brave. And other times she just would run for the hills. So I think that was.
Yes, Chief. And this is the last one. It's the mirror. It's the when people are seeing things in the mirror. But you were saying, I'll just play it and then let you explain how you feel you want to share.
Okay.
Okay.
You see this, right? You do see this, right? Uncle Larry, is Jeffrey in here? Right here. We're working on the bed. Jeffrey, say something. Huh? Say something. You. Hold on. Guys, come in here. Why? What the hell's that? Just don't move. Don't move. Don't say anything. You see this, right? Is that a person? That's a person. That's a person. That's a person.
Okay, so feel free.
These are some of the things, amongst a lot of things that are happening with individuals seeing things in mirrors. Even one of my new paranormal investigators in training had a story just last week about seeing something in a mirror. And I don't know if did I talk about that before? Anyway, so someone that I know is an intense seer saw this, had no reason to be BSing, So again, these things, and I recall even ever since I was a kid, looking into mirrors were really, really kind of creepy for me. And then they had this one little thing where they, and I don't know if it was a new agey thing, I don't know where it came from, about staring in the mirror, not blinking, and then seeing your face morph. And yeah, I did that a couple times when I was a kid, creeped me out. And then one when I was in my 20s, and I did it, and it was, at that time, still things on that side were a little creepy to me. but I was on the road to challenging whatever it was on the other side at that time. And you look in the mirror, and you know, if you even women said they look in the mirror, and the next thing you know, there's an image there with a beard, you know, and would morph into something else, and so on and so forth. Or just walking past the mirror and feeling like some things, always the energy always felt weird walking past certain mirrors, or mirrors in general, and where something's watching you from the mirror. So one individual, in his mother's home, I did a house clearing, and I told them to you know, cover the mirrors. You know, I said, you know, I don't even have to feel it because I know that they're all dormant. So just cover the mirrors, right? And came back for the last you know, session of the house clearing. That something's kind of up in, you know, in the house, and said, you guys come in the mirror? And they said, well, we asked each other, did we ever saw anything in the mirror? I said, no, I didn't see any mirrors, we didn't cover them. So I just said, look, stand off to the side of the mirror, put your hands out there in front of the mirror about an inch away. So, okay, I said, you feel that? And then all of a sudden, no, so how's that feel? It feels weird. Cover the mirrors. They're doorways. You know, if you have to use a mirror, use it. Cover it after you use it. There have been stories about, you know, there's all kinds of weird stories that are true with haunted mirrors and so on and so on. But I'm not going to try to just creep you all out. I do want you to pay attention and cover your mirrors. If you're not using them, cover them. You know, there are individuals that, like my grandma unit, mirrors are always covered. And some, yes, go ahead.
It's Sire, sorry. I have a question. If you don't say it's like a little makeup mirror, if you don't cover it, but you put it, okay, I put my makeup mirror underneath the bathroom cabinet, but I make it face the wall. Do I still need to cover it, or is that enough?
No, you cover it then. Actually, one of the clients, they had like one of those full length mirrors that, you know, they can move around. And I told him, you know, you need to cover the mirror, so he just turned it to a wall.
Yeah, Ricky turned it around.
Yeah, he immediately turned it to the wall, which literally gave them nothing to look at from the mirror.
Okay.
Yeah. There are other things that you can do to just even secure that. But if you have a case where, you know, people have, like, they have these compacts, they call them, with mirror in them, and you close it, it's like covering it. You know, but facing it away definitely is good, so that whatever is behind it doesn't get a good view of what you're doing. You know, and this particular individual I was talking about with the parental unit, after the fact, he said the house was clear, it was really, really good, but he went to the mother unit's room and she had uncovered the mirror. And he felt kind of weird, and he took a picture because it felt weird. And he said, well, looked at the picture, looked, it was kind of like regular. And then he adjusted the exposure on it. When he adjusted the exposure, all of a sudden he saw something that looked like a demonic face looking at him through the mirror, smiling. And it freaked him out. And this one, he was trying to get in touch with me without, you know, preparing a session. But he literally told the mother unit about it, and she just went, you know why she didn't want to? Because the thing is in her. What comes in affects that person. So we're talking about individuals walking around with attachments and so on. There are various levels of attachments. So if you're telling someone to do something that's helpful to them, and then they don't, guess what? It's something very, very dense. Because I have, you know, a lot of proof as to what I do, how it works, and how well it works. So individuals who just like, oh, I don't need it. You don't even know who's talking to you, or who's at the driver's, you know, at the steering wheel. So it's on them. I think the density think that they're hurting me. Because I'm not into the new age bullshit. It's about, you know, dunya, Gaia. You know, if you can help, it'll help you by doing your exercises, doing the things that I tell you to do. It'll help you. Also, you know, alleviate some stress from Dunia, but she's not having too much of a hard time these days. So again, if a person doesn't want to, that's your business, and doesn't, no skin off my nose. I'm not going to lose any sleep because somebody doesn't want to, follow my instructions. And I just question, why are you paying for sessions if you're not going to do what I tell you to do? So. No.
All right. So now that I think that's all the photos and videos for now, except for the Spirited Away movie did a really good job of actually showing some images of Black Goose. One was like whenever No Face ended up purging a lot, all this like black goo was coming out when he was spitting out all the people he ate and all the stuff he ate. And then, which I have an image for. And then also, whenever you're talking about attachments and entities inside of people controlling them, it was interesting because in Spirited Away, there was that black slug that was controlling Haku for Yubaba. Yes.
Yeah. And even in other movies, a lot of times, some horror movies, it's either black water, or black something, gooey or something, or black veins coming out of someone who's down the line, the arm of someone who's a zombie or something like that. And all that represents is black ooze. I used to think in terms of, maybe this is a negative connotation about the color black, but he literally, whether he chose that color for whatever reason, but that's how a lot of this stuff, looks. That's how black ooze looks. It's like this black tarry looking stuff and tarry in color. So does that make the color black negative? No, that's just what the color of that is, because there are orbs that people will see that are white or pink or some, or glowy green or something like that. And, they go, oh, look at the pretty colors. It must be good. No, I said, let me check it out. Let me vibe it. It's dense. So they just jerk you around. All this stuff is an illusion, So again, in programming, oh, look at the pretty picture. Or look at, there are even certain plants or whatever. Look at the pretty plant or whatever. Or look at this pretty piece of pottery. And, they said, yeah, pretty, but it feels weird. And yeah, because it has some dense attachment to it. So don't let the whole concept of beauty fool you. Because there are folks over time, great-grandparents and so on and so forth. There's even a proverb in, I forgot which particular community it's from in Africa, about beware of the beautiful people. Because they're trying to influence you with their beauty. So-called beauty. It's an illusion. Darn, you talk about grammar.
Whatever you want.
But anyway, I'll just touch on it. So, and I'm not quite sure, if not all of you, most of you heard it's what's inside, not what's outside. But how are people influenced? Usually by what's outside, first. Or some women say, oh, he's a really good looking, but he's so handsome. And then after a while, he's a real rat bastard. But still something in there, whether it's attachments or so, or so on. I said, but he's really good looking. I actually had a friend, a guy that was friends with someone that I was friends with at the time in the past, whose his wife unit was a terror. And he's always whining to this guy about her. And he said, well, why don't you just like, Belle, man? But she's so beautiful. Only illogical, seemingly, but so many people are affected by what this illusion of beauty. So we'll talk about glamour down for a second. What's going on and may hit really hard. And some of these images of individuals looking in the mirror and seeing something that, is moving like them, but they don't, that seems like it's not them. There are times that it is them, but it's their glamour image. Just like I believe on the last video.
Last video.
That was, this guy is what he really looks like. So anyway.
Yes, because like you talked about how in the Pirates of the Caribbean movie Dead Man's Chest,
Mhm.
there was all these like entities, and they had become one with their attachments, and so they had like an octopus beard and all kinds of stuff.
Barnacles and things talk to them, and and crustaceans and so on and so forth. And yeah, and that is, and when we had it in the studio for a minute, people and their density just felt weird about that,
The
that
image,
image. And and again, if you haven't had sessions with me, or you're generally a smith, or you are susceptible. But everyone has their dense hitchhikers. And the dense hitchhiker said, "Well, this guy's talking about telling people that we're here when they don't, they're walking around with these alternative thoughts going on in their head, thinking that this battle between these thoughts are just their one mind, when it's something else, And also with the tunnel vision, you don't pay attention to which one keeps steering you into brick walls. There's always some little voice that, I knew I should have. But the louder voice says, no, we're going to continue to walk into that wall. See that wall over there? That's got your name on it. But why would it do all that? Shut up. Again and again and again. And those around the ball that you have been around will support that. Or just confuse you to the point where you don't know what to listen to. Up is down, down is up. So, is that?
Yes, Chief.
What was it? Maybe had another question, or?
Yes, there's some more questions.
Sure.
Um,
But was there something that you wanted to tag on to that?
I did, but
Okay, go ahead. Let's do
they
that.
try to make the thought go away, so I'll have to wait till it comes back.
Okay, again, we had someone in there was doing something. He also had some coughing when with Mimosa's question.
Yes.
When I started to hit that, they started coming up to the surface, and and there's a little something new here. Now this is to just suck anything that's in there trying to like get an ear in. So it's like the kid that putting your ear to a keyhole and getting sucked through the keyhole into the vortex, return. So we'll see how that works. So anyway, you may have not gotten the thought back yet.
It's okay.
Yeah.
I think it's time to move to what we originally started out to talk about, how Yubaba is a good symbolism for the system, and it's funny how Yubaba trained her big child, her big baby, to fear the outside and to stay inside all the time.
Yeah, the whole concept of germs.
Yes.
And I remember that when I was a kid, they were sort of promoting that, and supposedly health and they put it on TV and so on about germs, and they had commercials where they had cartoon images of germs with these evil looking guys, who are coming here just to take over your body and and whatever, like the body snatchers or something. So she literally was an example of the system. One by her behavior, but they gave you an obvious one. A really, really nasty person. She's jerks this really big kid, baby around, and it's kind of weird because the kid is also, she's coddling the kid, but she's also I should say, corkscrewing him to not come out of the room, to stay in the room, stay in this place, that way I don't have to be concerned about you. So I'll just lie to you, so you go outside, you're going to get germs and you're going to die and all this other stuff. And the other side of that, which I did talk about that, having to do with her sister Zaniba, who looks exactly like her, that they consider her to be a split or something.
Yes, a split, a fragment.
A fragment, a split of each other. So someone would think, well, look, she's, told Cindy to call her granny and all this other stuff. look at me, the nice little bracelet and so on and so forth. But if you recall that the boiler room guy said, you want to go see Zaniba? She's a real dangerous witch.
Yes, and Chief, I think if I remember correctly, it was only in the English translation, the way that they dubbed it or whatever.
Mhm.
They said "call me Granny" was only in the English. If you looked at the Japanese translation into English, it didn't say that.
Oh, she didn't tell, right.
Yes.
We were talking about the difference between the spoken and the subtitles.
Yeah.
Now, we thought, well, maybe that has to do with trying to
Fit the
sync
words.
sync the words to the mouth, how the mouth is moving in the animation. Sometimes that is, but sometimes I think there's something that is, I should say, directed towards, well, I mean, subtitles, directed towards people who read English or whatever. So,
Well,
it's.
Chief, at the end of the movie, they're just driving away, so they don't actually have to speak in English, right? Then there's nothing to actually that they must translate. But they said they just said, I guess for whatever reason, they said, "You're not scared, are you? Don't be afraid, honey. Everything's going to be okay. A new home, a new school. That's a bit scary." And then Chihiro, "I think I can handle it." They introduced fear when the Japanese version didn't you didn't see anything like that. It just says, "We're off, Chihiro. Hurry up, Chihiro." And then that's it.
And that's it. But then they added,
Yeah, they added those when there wasn't a reason. Yeah. Except to promote fear.
Well, everything, excuse me, in this realm is about promoting fear and promoting whatever the Matrix wants. So going back to Zaniba and Baba, they portrayed, even though in the subtitles didn't say anything about calling her granny or whatever, and only someone who speaks fluent Japanese would really
would really know.
It's said in the whole movie. And sometimes you knew a Japanese woman who you're watching some anime or something,
Yes.
and she's watching with you. She said, "What they just said in English, or you read in the subtitles, is not what was being said in Japanese in the animation."
She said you really lose the actual essence of the anime, and she said there was a lot more to it. And I was like, man, I need to learn.
Yeah, and sometimes it just will misdirect you in a way where your mood will shift according to what the dialogue is. Yeah. And then you find like the dialogue didn't say anything like that and wasn't a mood shifter. So with one of the things again with the Yubaba and Zaniba, and I don't know if the boiler room guy said that she's a dangerous witch or anything.
Yes, I don't recall that.
Yeah. But the reality is that she was a witch and she had a lot of juice and so on.
Well, they called her a sorceress. That's what she said.
Oh, right.
Dangerous sorceress, not a witch.
Yeah. So I think maybe that's more of the language from from the East, individuals being sorcerers or sorceress. But the thing is that there's this thing to try to promote her as being a nice person because she was nice to sin. When in reality, she was quite dense, just like her other sister, but she had a different style of being, I guess evil or whatever. The boiler room guy, what he put out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Chief, when you were talking about the big baby and how the big baby was trained, it's interesting because you were talking about how the system gets people so tuned up that they start attacking themselves or they start putting limitations on themselves. And it's interesting because not sure whether the English version or the Japanese version, but I wrote down what the baby said, and it was interesting because it's very much related to what I see on the news, what you see on the news with these people who the government tells them to hide in their houses, and so then they start repeating that mantra to each other. And the baby says, you can't go outside or the bad germs will get you and you'll get sick. You won't get sick if you go outside. And then, Chihiro's like, you won't get sick if you go outside. And the baby says, yes, you will. That's why I never left this room. And Chihiro says, it's staying in this room that'll make you sick. And then the baby's like, play with me or I'll break your arm.
Yeah, he changes the subject all of a sudden. We've seen that with people. They can't get you with their whack sense of logic or whatever, then they'll change the subject. Or something, or I'll punch you in the head because, I can't outsmart you, So there's some symbolic, a lot of symbolism in the movie. And yeah, that's one.
Yes, because I mean, even Chihiro was stealthy enough to be like, "I have germs," showing Haku's blood, and that was enough to scare those who believe, who believes the system, his mom, and so he's like, "Ah," and lets her go.
Right.
So.
Right. Yeah, just enough so that she can get out of there. And of course, I think he comes charging out later.
Yeah, all mad.
But all PO and so yeah. So, but it's so many things are interconnected and have a certain type of parallel. And maybe I might ask you to do the one that I think maybe it's going to do in some other form, and I haven't figured out which one to do it on. That has to do with the this pandemic thing. And the guy, but anyway, I think we should just go ahead and show it if you have it.
Oh, what? Oh.
But you can find it if you don't have it.
No, I have it.
Okay.
Sorry, I wasn't sure if you were for her.
Yeah, because Mrs.A knows with being with me is, it's kind of like, if I have an inkling to go this direction, all of a sudden I'm just gonna, turn the steering wheel. And it depends on how things are flowing as to what direction I'll take things in. Because they hadn't really planned on showing this for this. But it goes along with people being told to be afraid. It goes along with Yubaba telling her kid that there's dangerous germs out there, so stay in your room. If you recall that she had the room all decked out, and even had a big mural type thing that was automated, where it would turn and then it would be daylight in the sun. And then it's time to go to sleep, it'll turn, and then there'll be the moon and and the stars. So let me know when you have that. And,
Okay, Chief. Yes. So while I'm looking, because they're trying to get me to not see it, but there's a.
Well, we can go on with other stuff, and then if it comes up, we can show it later.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, because I don't want them to
Sure.
slow roll.
After that, Haku and Sen end up falling into the trash. The giant trash bin, where they throw out all the dump. And it was really interesting because there was a lot of entities down at the bottom of that trash vent. And then that's whenever Haku and Chihiro fly up into the air. And Haku remembers his name because Chihiro tells him about an experience that she had with him.
Now, this is after the same thing happened about me when Yubaba had him shove down that chute, go into the trash. We're talking about that scene.
That was the scene, and then after that, he gathered himself and was able to.
Well, I thought after they went down that scene, I thought he was, thrashing around in the boiler room or something.
Oh, yes. Oh, but that was actually. Yes, and yes, I skipped that part. Thank you for remembering it.
Okay.
He was thrashing around inside of the boiler room, and he ended up purging out the black slug.
Yeah, and that's after she gave him that herb ball thing.
Yes, that the other river spirit.
River spirit I had given her. And she couldn't figure out what the heck the thing was for. She said it tasted really bad, but they just shoved it down his throat, and he ended up purging out this, this gold seal thing with a bunch of black ooze, dripping off it, right?
Yes.
And then the little slug-looking thing that was black also had black ooze.
Right. And you were talking about, Chief, that
Hold on a second.
yes, no, that was the iPad, Chief.
Oh, okay.
You were talking about how purge is great, whether it's sweating, whether it's coughing. The gift of purge was what the river spirit gave to everyone who ate it. No Face and Haku, which was cool. Because I've seen in movies where they're like, or like actually like kind of glamour girls, like, oh my gosh, I'm sweating, like it's bad, or coughing or burping.
Yeah, well, I in some sense, it's like if you're in a certain situation where it calls for,
Oh yeah.
not have sweat marks under your arm, I could see the concern, but also all that stuff is something that's set up, all these little distractions where, stressful pageants and competitions and so on and so forth. There's a lot of essence gathered from that stuff. So people are very, very nervous and they're sweating, and there is a purging which is good, but the difference is with that type of purging, a person who's not really doing any work, what they do, they just replace the ooze with more ooze by eating other toxic stuff or doing other toxic things. So yeah, people are purging all the time, but they're always, in all cases except for those who are doing the work, replacing it. So it's just this, cycle of, not getting anywhere, really just spinning the wheels. But you were going to say something else.
There was a client in the past that they thought they were doing a good thing by like massaging someone's head, and they were just getting a lot of mucus in their mouth, and they thought they were like healing them, but actually she was taking in the density into herself.
Yeah, and they were taking her essence.
Yes.
And then we're replacing it with
Garbage.
with density.
Density.
And then which means that her body consciousness want to spit it out. I've had some where someone was trying to do what I do unwittingly because they believe in the New Age thing, every one size fits all. So he's going, oh, this is how it's done. And they started to try doing what I was doing, and they ended up getting all this gunk in their mouth, a lot of but they swallowed it, and next thing you know, they were on their back in pain. So again, with this stuff, it's not a New Age trick. All this other stuff are tricks, and they're all distractions trying to make you think that you're moving in a certain direction when in reality you're just moving in a circle.
I have
And I've said
video.
that before too, but anyway, repetition is good. So, okay, Mrs.A.
I found the video.
Okay, all right. It's a little, guys, it's a little rough, but bear with me because it really he really speaks really truthfully about what's going on.
Look at this shit. What the fuck? This is why they want us to stay in the house. This is why the fuck they want us to stay in the fucking house, nigga. It ain't the coronavirus, nigga. It ain't the radiation, nigga. It's this. What the fuck is this? What is this? What is that? What is this? Hold on. What is this? What is this? What is that? What is this? What is this in the sky right now? What's going on? They're not airplanes. They doing formations and shit. Like, what's going on? For real, for real. Somebody please explain to me, man. What's going on, man? Like, this shit crazy right now. What the fuck? Like, leave the camera.
Okay.
Okay. So rough around the edges, but the information is clear. Not everyone is following what the system is telling them. And you came across that one about a week ago or something like that.
I think so, yes.
Yeah. Like I said, regardless of what language he uses and so on and so forth, truth is truth. And when they did that number beginning of the year before last, I have a post that addressed it very, very much similarly, where why do they want you to stay in the house? So I was coupling that with Baba telling her baby these lies to keep it in the room, and then using false, images of the sun and the moon, supposedly to, think it's like actually, living outdoors, even though it's in a room. It doesn't even understand even the concept of freedom.
Why do you want more than a pile of pillows? There's not more to life than all this comfort I've given you.
Comfort is, it's comfort for the blind,
Yes.
but then, consciousness cannot move around without the energy from the higher consciousness, so it always feels like something's missing. And I talked about individuals when I was involved in men's conferences, men's groups, who had gone through college and had done all the things that their mom and a lot of times their mother wanted them to do, become a lawyer, become a doctor, and they would do all that, and then they got the financial rewards of it, but then they felt like there was still something really big missing. They spent a lot of time investing into something that ended up being an illusion, and a certain number of these individuals were dealing with these conferences to try to get over, like addictions, because, you know, supposedly, you know, you get money and all those, you know, things. You're supposed to be in Nirvana. That's it. Have no worries. But they still had worries. They still had concerns. They still felt empty. And they literally would get up and, you know, one after the next and proclaim the same thing. Very simple. You know, is this all there is? But a lot of times, the system wants you to invest so much of your time here, which is an illusion, so that when you start to, you know, feel like, I think I got played, you know, you're an elderly person or something. Or they have the distraction, you know, you gotta have kids can be a distraction, take it from me. And, you know, or your spouse can be a distraction, take it from me. Where, you know, it's hard for you to actually even focus on yourself. So they'll tell you, okay, well, you know, sit down cross-legged and clear your mind, and that's work. When, again, you know, I joked around about it before, yeah, you're sitting there like that, and there's stuff around this, like, you know, putting their finger in your ear, and trying to keep you, you know, I gotta keep mind clear, mind clear, mind clear. So there's many things that individuals have done for, you know, for a good long time that doesn't work. But, you know, I don't care. They use the age thing, you know, the generational thing to keep the younger ones from learning from the older ones and said, I used to do that stuff. It doesn't work. Now you're old. You know, it's old style. This is a new way. And then that younger person is the next older person, like, you know, I got played. And then he wants to tell his kid, you know, because I don't want to get it. Yeah, you're old style, man. This is new style. That's a joke. Anyway, we're going to go, should we go for another question today?
Okay, sure, if you'd like to. Lastly, in the beginning, Chihiro was driving with the father unit.
We got the urchins out in the street, their dense attachments and so on and forth. So, oh.
Yes, Chief. They run down the street now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. For the time being,
Okay.
this is how it works with these things. Jump into people all the time, and if you're like a, you know, like an airhead, it's like an open door. They just jump in, right, and then jump in. It's like military. They just send young men into the line of fire, and they just get cut down. That's how dense it is. That's where the war comes from. That's that mindset of the war. You just sacrifice yourself. Go sacrifice yourself. We'll tell you what's real and what isn't. We'll beat you down. If you don't, we'll put you in the stockade. So, yeah, they disappeared, you know, for now anyway, until they get another group of idiots who are going to come in and I have to wipe them out too. Or associates will wipe them out. So you're starting to build up again. Yeah. But anyway, what were you going to say?
Well, when you were saying that, it made me think about that in this movie. It was really interesting because Chihiro is renamed by the system, you could say.
Yeah.
Given a new name and told that she's not allowed to use her original name. Mm-hmm. And it was just interesting how people are told to, you know, are defined, you know, because she even said Haku was a thief and that he was, you know, worthless and that he was stupid. And, you know, he forgot his name and then he belonged to the system. So it's like, I just see that people struggle with letting the system define them. They listen to the media and music and let it define them. And whenever you tell them something, they struggle, you know, sometimes to remember because that's of the real. But instead, they remember what the system tells them, defines them, and they remember the name the system gave them.
Yeah, because the system is, you know, everything is in the matrix. In the matrix, everything is here that you see is created by the matrix. I can't say it enough. And also, the system does repetition as well. So you're, you know, if you're thinking about a mantra of your own, check out how many times you hear a certain phrase in media or whatever, and how many times do you say your positive mantra in comparison to their mantras. And it doesn't have to be the exact same mantra. It's variations of a mantra that you will hear of the system's mantra. So it starts to define you as soon actually, we talk about in past expressions, as soon as you're captured into this realm, or however you ended up in it. But when you're born into this particular expression, from the time you're born, and immediately start dismantling anything, any connection you may have as a young child to the other side, and then initiate you into this box here. And being that I should say, made a strong attempt to raise 2 children, I experienced both of them as children seeing the other side. And I never dissuaded either of them, from what they were seeing, especially, one of the children, to the point where now she does a lot of, this work, and she's comfortable with what she sees, and she knows she sees what she sees. It's like I think I see, she knows, just as I know what I see, as well as individuals who come to me from families who's like, you crazy, you're weird, I don't want to hear this stuff. Oh, anything that bad, it has to do with you because of your vision, when in reality it has nothing to do with their vision, and they're being set up. It's like, what do you call it? There's another word for it, but they're being set up by the density to be tormented by those who are around them. So when they come into my sphere, they say, well, don't think I'm weird, but I see, yes, I see it. Really? Yeah, I see it. What else do you see? I see that. Oh man, really? One of the great things about the healing circle training sessions, everyone, most of you guys got involved and really helped just your involvement in what you're seeing, and some of you seeing, what he was seeing really helped him, because he's been alone, just like so many deep seers or really intense seers. They're alone in this realm by design. They're in these clutches of individuals who are Smiths to shut them down, because they can't have seers who can see what's going on around. Because they're like, say, well, why would my kid lie? That was my thing. Why would my kid, not mine, but why would the child unit lie? Just a kid. I've dealt with this kid. I can empath and see what the intent is. If you have a kid who has some inclination to lie, which has to do with attachment, you can kind of feel it after a while. You go like, I'll take that with a grain of salt. And sometimes they're telling me the truth, but then you have to decipher. So I have a means of deciphering, but there are those who, when they're little kids, they're seeing stuff. Oh, it's your imaginary friend. Oh, so on and so forth. It's to shut down anyone who has a potential, who were and are intense seers. This is literally just what I think I said in the last forum. As soon as you get caught in this realm of yin, you're on death row. Therefore, however he does anything to you, it's whatever they decide to do to you. So there's no one-size-fits-all healing of a person. You have to look at every case by case, which is what I do. That's why what I do is effective. I don't give you, here's a book to show you exactly step to step. My book gives you some awareness of what's going on, but everybody's situation is different. Again, we're really going to the real past expressions. Who you were as a consciousness before any of this stuff. It all comes into play with where you are right now. So anyway, Ms.A.
Yes, Chief. Just lastly, in the beginning, Chihiro, when they drive in the forest with her parents, they get lost. And then the father unit was driving like a crazy person. Or so he was just driving fast. And this person says that when you drive, usually when you are lost, you drive slow. What are your thoughts on that, Chief?
Well, not everybody drives slow when they're lost, for one. And also, that's like a one-size-fits-all concept. You don't know what may be compelling this individual to start to speed up. If he's a potential Smith, it's a Smith in there saying, "Oh, let's get him lost." because we got something for them. It could have been like, again, this is the mind of Miyazaki, so I'm not going to pretend I know exactly what he's thinking, but this is what I read from what I saw, when I've seen the movie, and I've seen it more, maybe I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 times over the years, and if we wanted to say like something predicted or something like that, even though they're not talking about, I had a prediction that we would, see this place, and then we would, find this restaurant, and we just start eating things, and we turn into pigs. There are things that actually will lead individuals in a certain direction, regardless as to whether, some psychic told you or not. And also, premonitions aren't real anyway. Those are plans that something on the other side has for you, and they need you to acquiesce in order for it to come true. Or they need all the parties to, to acquiesce for it to come true. So even the so-called greatest psychics who are supposed to predict the future, their averages are not as high as you would think they are. They miss a lot, but then they have enough hits because whatever plan they had went to fruition. There's not always something right that's interfering with a dense planet. It could be another dense cabal, a dense guild, we call them, who has their own agenda, and they fight with one another, and they do that all the time. And they do it, so much that it's kind of funny when I really started getting into battling with them, that you can slip between them while they're fighting with each other and get wind of what's really going on. So again, everything here mirrors there. So when I was talking about all these different entities in the movie that they're showing, like the duck people and the frog people and so on and so forth, those are also illusions or representations of consciousness. But if you really look at it and in the movie, they behave like what happens in this world. There are Yubabas, there are Zanibas, there are No Face, not many Hakus.
Right.
There are sins who are waiting and anxious to learn. But if they run into the wrong individuals, they end up going down the wrong path. So yeah, I guess I think I did answer that, having to do with, why is he driving so fast?
Yes.
And it has nothing to do with him being a man either. So,
yeah, because
the men just love to get lost. They just want to ask. I would always stop for directions when I got turned around.
I struggled with that too. Whenever I felt lost, it was like this feeling like a bit of panic, and I would feel like going faster. Like maybe the turn is just around the corner. Maybe if I go this direction, and then I come in a fork in the road, and I just have to make a choice. Then I just keep going faster just to find out which one it was. So now that I've been learning with you, actually stop. And you said turn around, so I turned around.
Yeah, it's always best to backtrack.
Yeah.
If you're lost, just turn around, and hopefully you can remember how you got to that particular point.
Yeah.
Because you turn around and you can find your way back, you'll definitely be somewhere where you're familiar.
Yes, and I was probably trying to apply, the one size fits all. Like, well, I never want to turn around because in my life I don't want to turn around. So it's like it was weird, it was strange, applying things that don't go with them.
Yeah, it can be distorted that way, and that's the job of the system. So they'll give you certain things that sounds good, but then they give you something else, and then you try to combine these two things, and it doesn't work. The anime segment that you wanted me to see, that you felt may have something to do with fragmentation and so on and so forth. And when I checked it out, it was confusing because there was fragmentation, there was MCs, there was attachments and all these things, and they were mixing them together in a way where to me in the end it didn't make sense. And Mrs.A said she watched it years before she even had knew me, right?
Yeah.
When you watch it, so she was looking at it from a place where the system had literally influenced how she was seeing things.
Yeah.
and didn't have, as much information then as she has now. So after you're looking at it now, then you said, oh, you got to, oh yeah, I see what you're talking about.
And after you described, like what you described just now, it made me think that's very much like the yin and yang way, just to scramble everything together. Because people think that the density is smart, that they're, meticulous and they're planned out, but they're just chaotic. They don't do things organized. They're very psycho in the way that they like hodgepodge. Everything's a Frankenstein here.
Yeah.
People and everything that they do.
Yeah, it's really haphazard, and they figure as long as we're getting the essence, who cares? These guys are on death row anyway. So use a really good example. Last forum having to do with this. They just throw stuff in. They don't care. Are we getting the essence? Yeah, it's getting essence. Throw some more garbage in there. Getting essence? Yeah, so on. And sometimes they want to finesse what kind of essence, the flavor of the essence, and so on and so forth. What they desire to pump out of you, and what it's like going to Starbucks or something. Fear latte or something, or a jealousy latte.
And another interesting thing, Chief, about this movie Spirited Away was that after the big baby hung out with Chihiro, because Chihiro was maturing, even when she got on the ghost train, she stayed awake and watched to make sure she got off on the stop and she got everything that she needed. And even the big baby matured from watching Chihiro's journey, or whatever you would call that. And he ended up learning how to walk. And you could see that the system, or Yubaba, was like, oh, you're walking, like almost like, I'm not happy with that. I'm coming to you like, oh, you might fall, now that you learn to walk, and that's a system. They want you to be dependent on everything that they give you, media, music, whatever it is. That's like sucking the teat of the system,
Really just trying to push them back into the box.
Yep.
But again, like I said, it's all about the mind. So you have to convince the kid's mind that what he now isn't what he now is. Someone who has more viability, someone who's more independent, someone who's actually maturing. He said, no. You'll get hurt, like that. I don't know how many of you, and I'm quite sure a number of you had, when you're young, you usually look for mentors, some older person, older kid or whatever, and you really look up to them, unwittingly look up to these people sometimes, and even worship these individuals. And then you get to a certain age, they could be a parental unit. Get to a certain age, if your own maturity and and all the wounds or whatever you may be getting on your own out in the world, and you start to look at these individuals that you look up to, and you start to see the chinks in their armor. You start to see that this person isn't as brilliant as I thought they were, because you are maturing. So a lot of times, this can be in family units where certain parental units do not want to let go of their stranglehold on their so-called brood. So you could be 30 years old and you got one or both of these parental units trying to push you back down where you were 10 years old, or when you were easily pliable and easier to feed off. So there are those who have these parental units who will call them up and whine and complain and so on and so forth. And by the time you get off the phone with them, it's just like, I'm bushed, because they were feeding on you. So if you start saying, I don't want to, well, you're not being a good child. What, being a good child is being your food? So they're trying to pull you back when they try to guilt you for not allowing them to throw up all over you, or to tap into you and take your essence. And you really do know when you're tired after it. Sometimes tired, frustrated, sometimes even feel a little dirty. They say, well, it's my mom. It's a man. Consciousness is consciousness. They're just playing roles. Everyone's playing roles. They said, what about you? What if this happened? Yes, I've had so-called family units transition out. I didn't shed a tear. It wasn't because I was cold-blooded, but I know what happens on the other side. Some individuals are like, they're too broken to be on, to be on the other side, to be out in stream consciousness universe. But those who, feel like those individuals had enough light in there, and the system just crushed them to the point where they just didn't want to be here anymore. And they go, transition out. And I could observe them on the other side, because they can do that. It's very good at this. So, again, they mind screw you into words mean what they tell you they mean. How dare you rebuild this up? How dare you try to tear it down? You're what is it? You're destroying the family.
Yeah.
I said, I'm not destroying anything. I'm just giving these people information. All of a sudden they're waking up and they're looking at you with real eyes all of a sudden. And a lot of them just try to be really peaceful with, with the parental unit while they're trying to do their journey. But guess what happens? Because those folks are potential and are dismissed, they can't, no. I don't care how nicely you talk to me, you better get back in that box, kid. Or the system will do that. How dare you question the system? Get back in line. Get back in the box. We'll hurt you. So if you don't know what the other side is about, you say, well, my consciousness will continue. This is an avatar. Some folks say, we'll kill you, and then there's others just like, you'll kill us? No, we'll kill ourselves. How about that? We'll take you with us. No, we can't have that. They're crazy. They're crazy. Who's fucking crazy? The threatener or the one who's just saying, I'm not afraid of this stuff, and I'm not afraid of transition? The crazy is to tell you that the ones who aren't afraid of transition are crazy. Up, this down. So anyway, what's there other questions?
No. And just lastly, would you like a last thing or just end it here?
What's our time?
2:01:42.
Oh, so we have 2 hours already.
Yes.
It's okay. We can do the last thing.
Okay, the last thing
we can
is,
wrap it up.
So you were saying, it was interesting because in the Japanese version, whenever Chihiro's talking to Haku while they're flying in the sky, while he's flying in the sky, she says, "You are the one who carried me to shallow water. I am so grateful." And in the English version, it says, "You are the one who carried me back into shallow water. You saved me. I knew you were good." And all I can think of, Chief, is that people have to do the work that you tell them to. They have to walk, you show them the door, but they have to walk through it. So just being in your vicinity will not save you, will not save them, but doing as you ask will help.
Yeah, well, it's likened to what I was saying, that individuals will purge out, but then they'll go and then they replace whatever they're purging. And the thing about, I was going to say, when you read that about hers, them saying that you say that you're good. It's not about good or bad, it's about balance. Yeah. That's what it's about. If someone is too nice, it's kind of weird. If someone's really, how it feels if somebody's really, dense, but it's about balance. Yeah. Balance is always better than, well, you're good, because individuals used to use that to try to play me. Women used to use that to try to play me years ago. Because I had a bunch of sisters, nice to girls and so on and so forth. I like my sisters and all that, hope they had good lives and I wouldn't want them being treated badly and so on and so forth. Oh, you're a nice guy, you're nice, you're nice. And I go, oh, okay, well, And I said, oh boy, you're a Tinderfiddle. Ooh, I can see So I went, after a while, for balance. So someone said, oh, you're really nice. I said, I'm nice when I can be, but you wouldn't want to know me when I'm not nice. And I'm not nice just out on a whim. You must have done something for me to have to change my attitude. And I can change my attitude. But anyway.
Yes, and lastly, that Haku, he was a really, I like that, in the English version, it's whatever, but that saving thing, because Haku, didn't, you know, the typical saving, what I picture is someone carrying someone and running around with them, you know, and but Haku, he's like, he gave her instructions, and if she didn't follow them, she would have got eaten by Yubaba, the system.
Yeah, yeah. But in the end, by helping her, he also helped himself.
Yes.
You know, and that's another thing also. You know, concept of you know, jealousy and envy and so on and so forth. That's some influence. You know, of course, you can't show certain people that you're happy for them because maybe they think you're a sucker. This is an insane, you know, realm. But you know, if you can vibe and get rid of all the noise I'm helping get rid of, you can actually vibe with someone that's actually more, you know, has a bit more balance, who can accept you, feeling, you know, supportive of whatever good that's happening for you. So anyway, I think that was the last thing.
Yep, that's it, Chief.
Anyway, with that said, also, again, I still think it was a great movie. There are a lot of really positive things in it, you know, and I do feel like it's a reflection of the realm that everyone's experiencing. So,
Thank you, everyone.
thank you everyone for coming again.
Thank you.
Okay, welcome.
Bye-bye.
Okay, no questions. Okay.
Welcome.
All right, take care, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.